Hi, this is Tammy, and in this video I'm going to show how I created this Skully Gin lime using displacement maps in Photoshop. Now, there are a lot of tutorials all over the web on displacement maps. I have followed Colin Smith's tutorial on Photoshop Cafe. I'll link to his tutorial below. So that's what I have learned displacement maps with. I'm no expert, so that's how I learned it. And as I go through his tutorial or follow along there, I'll give my own insight as to what I personally have found out. So starting off, I have a picture, come on, of my lime, a very round lime. And the first thing we want to do is extract texture from this image. Now this image has been edited in my raw editor, so this is a TIFF. So let's go find the texture. To do that, we go into channels. And what we want to do is check the different channels, the red, green, and blue channels, to see which ones give us the best textures. This is very dark. You can still see a lot of the texture in the blue channel. The green channel is very light. There's not a whole lot of texture there. The red channel is what I have found to be the right one for this particular image. Now the channel you choose will depend upon the image you have. So in this particular instance, I think the red channel works the best. So now that I have my channel, what I need to do now is make a file out of this. Right click on the red channel and choose duplicate channel. I'll just call this displacement. And we want to create a new document. And say OK. So now we have our displacement map here on a separate image. This is an alpha channel, so if you go into layers, you'll see you can't add you can't add filters and things like that. But what we can do, and what I have done, is edit it just slightly. Now, in Colin's tutorial, he says he wants to soften it up, so he adds a Gaussian blur to his image. Now, his image is a soft, textury feel. What I have here, what I want, is a hard texture. It's a sharp texture. So I don't want to soften it. On the contrary, I want to try to bring the contrast up a bit. So what I found works fairly well is if you just go to Image, Adjustments. Let me see, was that the one I wanted? No, I'm sorry. Image and Auto Contrast. And that works actually very well for this one. You could also, if we undo that, image adjustments, and then you can go into curves and you can play around with the curves and the levels and things like that. But for this particular image, auto contrast works fine. You can see it's a deeper contrast. So now my image is ready. Now please remember, do not, I'm zooming in and out here, which is okay. But don't move this image, don't crop it or anything like that, because it has to match perfectly the image you got it from. So remember that. It won't fit, the displacement map will be off kilter if you start cropping this displacement map file. So please don't do anything with that, and don't crop the other image yet either. So now we have our displacement map ready. So we save. Call it displacement, and you can save it wherever you want to, just as long as you remember where you saved it. I'm just going to put it here with the rest of the images. Don't change anything, and save. That's that. Now we can go back to our image, and let's go back to the channels and turn all the red RGBs back on, so we got our regular image. So now we just need to add the skull. I have that ready here, and I'm just going to drag and drop it into place. Now when I drag and drop it, it's going to create a smart object. That's how my Photoshop is set up. I'm just going to resize this. There we go, sorry. Here we go. So resizing this. I was holding down a wrong button at the same time. Okay, let's just put that right here. I think that's okay, and enter. So now you'll see over here, it's created a smart object. If I had gone in and said File, Insert File, and things like that, it wouldn't be a smart object. When I drag and drop, it creates a smart object, which is fine. So now, the next thing we have to do is add the displacement map to this, to the skull. So now we're going to Filter, Distort, and Displace. So we just leave everything as it is here. Say OK. And then we go find our displacement map, which we remember where is, and open. So there we have a displacement map, but you just can't see it right. So now we go up into our blend modes and just kind of scroll down through here and see which one creates the best displacement or the best result. And I know it's going to be overlay because I've done this before. Soft light could be a possibility as well. But overlay gives texture of both the skull and the lime. You can see highlights and just go through and just see what differences there are. And then choose the one you want. So now this is where Colin, he suggests doubling this up or copying this to add to the effect. I don't think that works well with this one, but one thing I am missing is the color of the skull. So instead of dragging and dropping and trying to resize and dragging and dropping the skull in here and trying to resize it, let's just see how difficult that is. You'd want it to fit perfectly and on top and everything like that because we want to do something else. That's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is copy this, Command or Control J, right click, delete filter, clear smart filters. There we go. And now we just have the same thing we imported before. It still is overlay. And now let's go in and change this to saturation. So now you see the colors, or you also choose color, saturation, or hue work equally the same here. Actually, it's color I used, so the color of the image comes through, but nothing else. So that adds to the effect. So now you can see both the displacement map and the color of the skull. So let's just say color. And there we go. And that's pretty much how I did the displacement map. And then if we go over to my finished one, you'll see here, I finished off here. And now after I've placed a displacement map and everything's fine, now I can crop if I want to. But don't crop until your displacement map is finished and you're finished doing the displacement map, because otherwise it's going to screw everything up. So anyhow, this was the finished product, and then I went in and I did some color correction. I brightened the background some, and I did some adjusting with the curves and layers, and I did some cleanup. And that was that's the final image, actually. I added some lettering to the top, and that's a whole different story. But that's how I use displacement maps and created this image. I hope you got something out of this, and let me know if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to follow up on, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Bye!